So appearing on Instagram with Megan, I think her name is Rapinoe, soccer star Megan Rapinoe, Joe Biden, and of course Fixture, his wife, doing, I suppose, what David Plouffe and David Brock, Axelrod, told him, basically get out of your basement and you gotta, get your digital media thing straight and everything else. That virtual rally that he had was abysmal and widely mocked. But in this case, another glitchy Instagram or another glitchy internet thing. But basically, Joe Biden, conversation with Megan, but he let something slip in this conversation. It goes for about 40 minutes or so. In the conversation, he let something slip. Now, this secret plan that Joe Biden just couldn't hold to himself and that he let slip. Look, let me preface anything that I'm saying with the COVID-19 virus and Trump's handling of it is a wild card. Meaning nobody can really make prognostications in regards to what's going to happen or not happen when you have this kind of X factor that's floating about. Donald Trump and his handling of this is going to get a lot of people killed. He's going to get a lot of people killed of African Americans and Hispanics, because those are going to be the numbers that are going to rise faster than the other numbers, even though there are more whites in this country. I guess my point is, it's unclear to me whether or not Trump's base and some of the people who lean to the right, independents, look at what's taking place as an issue that is more prevalent to African Americans because we're dying in higher numbers, in which case they don't care as much. Or if it is one of those things where they can look out and they can see a certain level of empathy for other human beings and saying, oh my God, all of these people are dying as a result of what Donald Trump is doing. I'm unclear on which one that's going to be, and depending upon which one that ends up being, will determine how the public judges Trump and whether or not Trump wins re-election. But nevertheless, that's a tangent. Joe Biden talking to a soccer star. I want you to hear his secret plan to win the election that Joe Biden let slip. Welcome to the Soapbox. My name is Jamal Thomas. This is the Progressive Soapbox, early morning soapbox. Couldn't sleep, so wide awake. I want to get into this video because this video is interesting to me in this secret plan. And the reason I keep calling it a secret plan is because the people who were talking about it basically said, you can't let something like this get out, especially in the early section of it, because you don't necessarily want it to be snuffed out before you can actually get it going. But basically, the secret plan is, well, I'll let Joe Biden tell you. Let's hear the clip.
The end of our alliance. We're already seeing it happen now. And we're going to be in more jeopardy, as well as, look, this in the middle of this, what's he doing? He's still in federal court trying to get rid of Obamacare. I mean, come on.
Yeah, this is going to take a lot of healing to, put this nation back together. But I think Americans are up to it. They're ready to move on. They're ready to move forward. They're ready to accept change. And I think, and like you're saying, all the Democrats came together, which was really such a beautiful thing that they all pulled together to move forward. And I think that's what this is about.
And the other thing I'm telling you is, I'm speaking to a lot of Republicans, former colleagues, who are calling and saying, Joe, you win, we're going to help. Matter of fact, there's some major Republicans already forming Republicans for Biden, major office holders, and people, and so there's a desperate need. Everybody knows.
Right there. Now, he said that and just kind of kept going and just went straight past it as if that's not a big idea. Joe Biden just said major official office holders in the Republican Party is backing him. Now, the catch here is the moment that people start asking questions about that, everybody was mum. Nobody had anything to say. And the issue and the reason that nobody had something to say should get across that this plan may not necessarily work. Now, the plan is basically a bunch of Republicans are going to try to get Joe Biden elected. They're going to have Republicans for Joe Biden. And these Republicans for Joe Biden are going to be associated with his campaign, inside and out his campaign, They're going to have some Republicans working, like I say, inside and out. But the person who they're floating, different various people, Jeff Flake, Kasich. Interestingly enough, is there really that large of a gap between a Kasich and a Joe Biden? And if there is not, have you asked your question yourself why? How is the Democratic Party, from the standpoint of the establishment of the party, I mean, after all, Joe Biden was elected, how could that party be that closely aligned with somebody like Kasich, where these guys would work in tandem in order to take out Trump? I guess the point I'm trying to make to you is your party has moved so far to the right that these guys are basically hand in hand where they will work to take down whoever's in the Republican Party now. Republicans for Joe Biden. He is trying to get Republicans to back him at this point. Look, Joe Biden is being funded by a lot of cash, meaning he's getting big ticket cash. He's still behind Donald Trump, but the people who are given to him are rich. They're oligarchs. Now, in the sense of these people who are given to Joe Biden who are just fantastically rich, where do you think his policies are going to go? Or you think they're going to go in the direction of the cash? Or you think they're going to go in the direction of the people who are not energized by his campaign at all? On the other part of that, the fact that he's energized and motivated by that cash, it's not an unseemly fit to have Republicans to back Joe Biden. And what does Joe Biden need to do in order to get Republican backing? Policy. He doesn't mind leaning to the right from the standpoint of policy because, again, he's being paid by people who incentivize him to do such. It's a win-win from that standpoint. The lefty faction, he knows that 15% are going to vote for Trump. He also knows that 51% are either third-party curious or third-party friendly. So it's possible that in his head, he's trying to find additional ground where he may be able to pull in additional votes. I would imagine he would take votes from anywhere he can get a vote. But that's problematic. Now, the catch becomes, are you going to be able to get more Republicans? Are you going to get more lefties? And are you going to alienate those lefties by trying to get those Republicans? Also, you have an issue with the fact that despite him saying he has official people in the Republican Party, nobody has come forward. Now, the reason no one has come forward is because of this right here. GOP voters, 89% for Trump. Now, I also thought it was interesting that you must understand that a fourth of Democrats want Joe Biden replaced. In addition to a fourth of Democrats wanting Joe Biden replaced, 40% roughly believes that he is guilty of sexual assault. So if your name is Joe Biden, you need to get votes from anywhere you could get a vote from. And even if that means trying to pull some from the Republican Party, the catch becomes how far does Joe Biden go into that camp? Now, my argument is the moment that Joe Biden wins and he has Sanders saying, go vote for Joe, he is going to get a percentage of lefties. Those lefties are going to back Joe Biden, even though it's not in their best interest to back Joe Biden if they want to get policy accomplished. So Joe Biden doesn't have to do anything for their vote. And so because he doesn't have to do anything for that vote, he's going to get Republicans. Like, this is kind of the point that I make to you. When African Americans vote to the tune of 90%, you don't get anything because they don't have to give you anything. You've given over everything for free. Politics is not about giving you anything. Politics is about what you have leverage in order to take. That's the difference. Over the last 40 years, lefties, African Americans, have always just given over their support for nothing because they were scared of the boogeyman in the other party. The Democratic Party, despite telling you you have nowhere else to go because the boogeyman is in the other party, was perfectly willing, in and of themselves, to crash it all in order to stop you and your policy ideas. So despite scaring you of the boogeyman, they had no issue at all of tanking and letting that boogeyman take the farm if it meant stopping you. Our politics needs to change. It needs to go to one of leverage, not to one of bended knee begging. From the standpoint of one Joe Biden, the fact that he's going to Republicans should give you qualms if you're a lefty. Those task force, I told you, were just token gestures. The reality of things comes in regards to who you put in those positions and what are the policies. if he had a Medicare for all position and he put Bernie Sanders in that and gave Bernie Sanders wide latitude and all sorts of powers, then fair enough. But that's not what's taking place. Those task forces have no power. Those task forces are meaningless. The delegate race that's taking place is meaningless. The fight that they took in order to get the New York thing on, yes, I'm glad it's back on. Yes, I want people to vote. In the grand scheme of things, it's meaningless. The fight that needed to take place was the election in and of itself. And so now we're stuck with this, with Joe Biden not willing to give concessions, real concessions, material concessions to the left, but wants those votes. And now you find out that he's working with Republicans behind the scenes in some kind of secret plan. There's an awesome quote to this where the guy makes the point. I just read it. It's literally just forming, one former Republican Party official involved with the preliminary discussions told the Daily Beast. I've had several conversations with the people who have approached me. It's going to take off. It's going to happen. The question is to what degree and what form it does. Source, who was granted anonymity to speak candidly about the private discussion, said, "You don't want something like this out on the street before it needs to be," the GOP source said. "It just makes it harder to do." Like I said, no GOP, no Republican has come forward that's in Congress. And with those numbers of Trump's, I have a hard time believing that they would. And the idea, because basically they're putting their own political necks on the line in order to come out and back Joe Biden. And to do that if you're still in office is not the easiest thing to do. That's kind of my point. Very basic point that if Joe Biden is going to be moving over to the Republican Party, all of these people that think they're going to get anything, any concession out of Joe Biden, you are in fantasy land. Joe Biden is basically going to take you back to the Obama era. He doesn't have to give you anything because you've already given him everything from standpoint of support. Like, share, subscribe.